Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jamie and today we are going over all the books that I read in December. Yes, hello friends. I did notice that I gained quite a few new friends, likely after posting my top 5 best and worst of 2024 video, because I know here on BookTube we all love the best of and worst of lists for the previous year. This is the time of year where everyone is watching them. So if you did come to my channel from that video, thanks so much for watching and welcome. I hope you have a good time here. I wasn't gonna make this video because this is what happens every year, is that in the hecticness of the end of year stuff, it's just, I struggle to get to my December wrap up in that time because I'm so focused on making sure that I get out my top 5 best and worst list. So the December wrap up kind of gets dropped and it's already pretty late. I know I'm really late making this video and I debated just not even putting it out because normally I do a wrap up plus the next month TBR, and I'm not really going to do much of a TBR for January. I kind of just want to wing it. I kind of want to mood read because I haven't been doing that lately. And I kind of want to start 2025 off with a different vibe than how I ended 2024. So I'm not doing a formal TBR. So then I was like, I really, might not even make this video. But I thought about it, and you know what? I had quite a few books that I really enjoyed in December of 2024, and I want to give them their moment. So without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, the first book that I finished in December, it was actually a little bit of a November into December read. That was Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, the second book in the Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies series. And this one, well, first of all, I just adore the cover. I like it more than the first one, even though the black is like kind of really growing on me. I did not love this one. I did not love this one nearly as much as I love the first one, but I do know that some other people prefer this one. Okay, there's a couple things here. So the first book, if you're unfamiliar, this follows our character of Emily, and she is an academic. She is like top of her field. She is cataloging all of the fairy species that live in the world. And this is like set in the 1800s, something like that. She's learning about all the fairy species, and she, in the first book, had just one very rare species left to kind of discover and learn about. And that was the quest of the first one. And there's also a little bit of romance where she has her academic rival join her on that trip, and fun things ensue from there. I really loved that one because I love the character of Emily. It's all told in journal entries from her. You get her perspective, and she is very much like absolutely kind of like the classic super smart scholar with maybe low emotional intelligence, or just she's developing her emotional intelligence. And I really enjoyed that character. I enjoyed the world building. I enjoyed it's really a slow burn, really slice of life. I mean, yes, there's high fantasy elements, but it's really just very much her going through her day-to-day, learning about the fairy species. And there are exciting moments, but it's primarily simple and cozy. And I thought that the journal aspect really worked in that sense, and I really liked following Emily. However, in the second one, I think that Heather Fawcett was trying to address some of the criticisms that other people had of the first one, mainly that it was very slow, not plot oriented. There's not a lot of big action scenes because with it being a journal entry, we're always seeing things kind of after the fact or hearing about them after the fact, and just in the first one, there just wasn't that many to begin with. So I do think that this book tries to rectify that by adding a much more complicated plot than the first one, and a couple more characters, and a lot more action scenes. But my problem is that, I don't know, I guess those elements are just not what I enjoyed about the first one. So for some people who were a little bit like, oh, this is too slow, the journal entry is not very exciting, I get why they would like this one more, but I liked the first one for what it was. And in this one, I felt that the journal entry format was very limiting, actually, because we kept trying to do these big action scenes, and at points, these journal entries are going on for pages and pages because she's recounting an event, but she's I don't know, it's kind of written more in like the present tense in a way. And so it kind of, I could just really feel the limitation of the journal format. It seemed like Heather Fawcett wanted to just, write action scenes because I think that's what people were asking for. And the result is just, I don't know. For me, it did not work super well because the journal format felt limited. And then the plot I just thought was really convoluted and like confusing. There was a lot of times where I was pretty lost and I didn't necessarily feel that in the first one. I don't know. I get that some people enjoyed this more than the first, but for me, I really loved everything that the first one was doing, and this is just like a departure from that, so for me this didn't work as well. Okay, moving on to a book that did work very well for me, that is The Safekeep by Yael Vanderwooden. Wow, this is a book that I had on my radar for at least half the year. As soon as it came out, I started hearing people, make a lot of noise about this book. People really, really loved it. It was a Booker Prize nominee and also a Women's Prize nominee. So just, yeah, getting a lot of award buzz, getting a lot of attention, and I felt like everyone who picked it up really loved it. So I was so excited to get my hands on this. And then I didn't end up reading it until December, but I'm really glad that I read this because I thought this was beautiful. I thought this was stunning. I thought this is something that, this is kind of just made for me. Like it was going to work. It was always going to work. This takes place in the 1960s in the Netherlands, and it is about this family who owns this big mansion, this big house, and the daughter of the family is currently kind of caretaking for that house, and she loves it. She adores it, but due to some like legal contractual things and the fact that she's a woman, she can't own this house. Her brother has to own it, and her brother becomes engaged to this other woman, and it kind of sparks this conflict within the family because the brother and the fiance are like planning on taking the house, moving into the house. And in this like little 2-week stint where our protagonist and the fiance are kind of like living in the house together, some stuff goes down. I just found this so fascinating. I found the writing stunning, but it's not like overly purple prose or anything. It's like beautiful, but in a very simple way. And I really enjoyed that. And this book, I could visualize it so well. Like it felt like a movie. It felt like I felt all of the emotions. The descriptions were beautiful, but not overdone. So it really just like, I could just imagine this on the big screen. It kind of reminded me of something like, watching like Atonement or Pride and Prejudice. Like I could really feel the beauty in the landscape and the emotions in the characters. And this is just such an interesting and really complex story, but told in such this like simple and elegant way. I just thought this was absolutely fantastic. And I just can't imagine this not landing for some people. I thought this was really well done. Beautiful. It barely did not make my top 5 of the year. And honestly, I was considering adding it into my honorable mentions, and maybe I should have, but I was really trying to limit how many honorable mentions that I had. But this was really fantastic, and I'm so glad that I read it. Next up, I read the novella Rest Stop by Nat Cassidy. This is a horror novella. It just came out at the very end of 2024, so I think a lot of people are either they've just picked it up or they're going to pick it up in 2025. This is crazy. This novella is absolutely insane. Nat Cassidy just continues to do his kind of off-the-wall, crazy stuff, but he pushes it to a new level here. This book is disturbing, unsettling, grotesque, just odd. I don't know. I certainly was entertained by it. I don't know if I really loved it. And part of it, a big part of it, is that I think I have just learned that I am not a Nat Cassidy girl. I don't like his writing style. I don't like the tone of voice that he uses. I think that some people do like it. It's very casual. It's very like use of common language and slang and like just very common, I guess. I don't know really how else to put it. It's just not my favorite writing style. It actually really grates on me. So I was constantly distracted from the horror and like the fun elements of this book because the writing is just not something that I like. That being said, I did think it was a very interesting premise. This is about a man who goes to a rest stop late at night and he gets locked in there. He gets locked in the restroom of the rest stop, and just some of the most crazy stuff starts to go down. And it's just, I mean, I can't even say more than that because this really, I mean, it's a novella, very, very short. And it's a tense ride. You really don't know what is going to happen next, which seems crazy because it seems like this is a very limited scope of a premise, but truly anything can happen in this book. And so for that, it was fun. I just don't like Nat Cassidy's writing style. So I got to the end of this and I don't know that I loved it, but I was entertained. I think that I am just not going to pick up Nat Cassidy anymore. This is crazy though. This is crazy. If you're interested, if you're curious, I mean, you should definitely try it out, but it's just, it's bananas. It is absolutely insane. That's all I have to say about it. Next up, I read Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Neugut. This is an interesting one. I had been waiting for this book for a long time, and it finally got the audio to me. It took a long time. A lot of people are reading this book apparently. It's hard to say that I enjoyed this book because the subject matter is so dark. It is so disturbing. It's upsetting in a lot of ways. But that being said, I did enjoy the experience. This is about a woman who is older. I think she's like in her mid, early to mid 30s. But she is a little off. She's definitely very emotionally stunted, and that is because she has had something that has happened to her in her past. But she doesn't really know exactly what happened. She doesn't remember anything from her childhood. The people around her don't really know what's going on until one day, due to a strange circumstance, a strange series of events, she does come to learn the knowledge of what happened to her. And from there, it kind of kicks off. In another one of my videos, I had just, like in one of my December ones, I was saying that I had just started reading the book and I was like, oh, I'm not really liking it. Basically, right after I got done filming that video and continued to read, like that moment, right, that I got to right after that, then I started really, really enjoying it. It was about at the 30% mark that something happens that really gets the plot moving and you're just like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing here. And at first I was like, I don't know if I want to be a part of this because the subject matter in here, I cannot overstate. It is very dark. It's very disturbing. But once the story started unfolding, I was like, okay, wait, this is interesting. This is interesting. So that's what I mean when, even though I say that like, it's hard to say that I enjoyed this book, I thought the storytelling was really strong. And once I got to that moment, I was just locked in. I was like, well, I have to know what's going on here. I have to, keep learning. And it was just fascinating at that point. And it is terrifying because this is dealing with some stuff that can and does happen in real life, and it's awful. But I felt that Liz Neugut handled it with a lot of care and nuance and responsibility. But on the same token, I can absolutely see why some people were like, no, this was not handled a certain way, or I didn't like the path that this went down. I can really see both sides of the argument here, but for me, I felt like it was well done. I thought it was well executed, and it's definitely a story that is going to stick with me for a long time. Next up, I read The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I was very excited to get to this because I know this is one series that people just seem to adore. I was a little intimidated by it because these books are like so long and they're fantasy. I don't read a ton of fantasy, but I decided to do this on audio because me and my husband were driving to see his family for the holidays, and my husband loves long fantasy books. So I was like, okay, I've been wanting to read this, and I think this is something he would enjoy as well, so we decided to do it. And yeah, I mean, it it is good. It is good. The reason I think I'm so hesitant to say how I feel about it is because there are parts I really, really enjoyed, and then there are parts that I'm like, okay, this is like kind of what I was expecting. It's a very slow burn. It's a story of, and this is what I didn't even realize this when I went into this book. This is the first book of multiple series of trilogies. So I think there's like 15 books total. And this book only covers the life, the years in the life of this one character from when he's like 6 to like 15. And I had no idea that when I started this book that is what this was going to be about. I didn't realize that this was going to be such a limited time in his life. But I ended up, enjoying it, enjoying the ride, but it is a very, very, very slow burn. I thought that the magic was interesting. I thought that the world was interesting. I enjoyed what was being set up, but at the end of the day, it's a very long, drawn out, slow burn fantasy, which is just not exactly, my perfect cup of tea. But that being said, I am curious enough that I may continue on with this series on audio, but like, this audiobook was like 16 hours long, so I don't know if I'm going to be jumping at that anytime soon, but I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it for what it was. I enjoyed concepts in here. I just do think that like it wasn't super revolutionary. This book was also written, I'm pretty sure, like in the 90s or something, so that is what it is. But I think I was expecting something a little bit more different or just something I hadn't seen before, but this is pretty much a very true classic fantasy novel. So if you love that, you'll probably enjoy this. If you don't, I don't think this will sway you. Next up, I read When We Were Orphans by Kazuo Ishiguro. I read this for the BACKLIST book club, which is hosted by myself and Bandy's Books, and you can find our entire discussion of this book on her channel. I will have it linked down below. Okay, Ishiguro. He wrote one of my favorite books of all time, Never Let Me Go. I'm obsessed with that book. Unfortunately, the next two books that I read from him, first Clara and the Sun and now this one, did not hit the highs of Never Let Me Go. And I don't know, when I picked this up, I was under the impression that I would love it because Emma from Emmy Reads really recommended this book and loved it, and she said it was like a kind of a detective novel, and he is a detective, sure, but I don't know, this did not land for me for a lot of reasons, and like I said, I had a full discussion about it that you can watch if you want to hear my more in-depth thoughts. But basically the issue that I had with this was that it feels like a lot of buildup. Again, it's a very, very, very slow burn book, and it's crazy, like this isn't that many pages, this is like barely 300 pages, but it felt like it was 800 pages. Like, it is so slow, and part of it is because of a structure that Ishiguro uses. Ishiguro loves to play with memory and kind of authorship in his works, which is something that I'm definitely very interested in. In this one, he really, takes that to a new level because he basically have like memories inside of memories inside of memories. And just because of that, because this character is constantly reminiscing about his past and thinking about, different moments in time, it just feels like you're not making a lot of forward progress in the actual story. This is a story about a young British boy who grows up in like an international village kind of encampment in Shanghai, and his parents are there for work, and then one day when he's 10, his parents end up disappearing, and he goes back to London, becomes a detective, and now he is trying to figure out what actually happened to his parents. Yeah, I mean, technically it is a detective story, but I just found this to be, first of all, kind of predictable, and then second of all, slow. And when you add those two things together, it just was not the best reading experience for me. I don't think I would really recommend this to most readers unless you really, really, really love Ishiguro's style. And I thought I did, but it's kind of turning out that like, I do have a lot of respect for him, but his books are challenging and they're slow and they're contemplative, and sometimes, like in the case of Never Let Me Go, that really worked, but here it just was a little bit painful to get through. Okay, you are going to have to strap in for this next one because this one, I can't, I don't even, this one's crazy. That is Rejection by Tony Tulathamudi. I do not know how to pronounce his name. I'm so sorry. Rejection. This was a book I was so excited about. This was one of my most anticipated of 2024, and I finally got around to reading it. It just came out at like the end of the year, and I finally got around to reading it in December, and oh my, I don't even know how to explain this. I think this is crazy. I think this is crazy. Okay. So first of all, Rejection is a series of kind of interlinked short stories. And it's satire. It's really satirizing the kind of like current internet age of discourse in a way. Like the first story kind of deals with a very liberal man who is unable to like get a girlfriend, and it creates this spiral because he was rejected, and it creates this spiral, and he turns into something not nice. So all of the stories are supposed to be themed around rejection in some way, and it is really dealing with kind of our current day and time and place in the world. And wow, I mean, I don't know how to describe this, because I did give it 4 stars. I gave it 4 stars because I thought this is clever. This is really clever. He's doing some very interesting stuff with authorship, with character voice, with just, stretching the lengths of satire to just a place that I haven't seen before. So I give it 4 stars because it's just fascinating. It's fascinating as a piece of art, as a piece of writing. However, it's just unpleasant, like unpleasant moments in here. Like, I did not enjoy reading the words on the page. There's actually a moment in here where I swear he is challenging you as the reader to put this book down. He is pushing you to limits that you did not even think were possible. Like, I really think he honestly was trying to kind of like bait the reader into like, are you gonna put this book down? Are you gonna put it down? And I was gonna stick it out. I really was. I was gonna stick it out, and then at some point I just had to start skipping pages and like, because he really does go that far. It's just, I mean, some people have said, oh, there's moments that are cringy in here. I think cringy is way too like calm of a word to describe the emotion that this book brings out, in at least in me. I mean, I would more say like disgust, just kind of just this like uncomfortable feeling. The language is also very academic for a lot of it, because he's kind of making fun of the like ultra pretentious language that is used on the internet to kind of gain some sort of moral high ground on moral issues. This deals a lot with identity politics and the very complicated and nuanced discussions we have with identity politics in the year of now, 2025. It's a lot about online culture. Like, let me tell you, there are parts of this book that I just do not think, if you have not been, deep on the internet, I just don't even think you would even be able to read this book. Like, I don't even know how you would understand the words that are on the page, because it is about so much of online discourse, online ways in which information is moved. I mean, I don't even know how you would process this book if you aren't in that world constantly. And unfortunately for me, I am in that world a lot. So I did understand a lot of this from that perspective, but it made me feel bad about it, Like, it made me be like, I need to get outside. I need to log off the internet, because if I could understand what you're talking about here, that is concerning to me. The same way that I kind of felt about reading Penance by Eliza Clark, a book I absolutely love. But it's just like, with that one and with this one, it's like, if you are not chronically online, I just don't even know how you would be able to make heads or tails of what's going on in here. So all that is to say, I gave this book 4 stars, and I will be keeping it on my shelf, if nothing more, as just like as a reminder of I put myself through that. But I don't know. I would say proceed with caution. If it does sound interesting to you, be my guest. Go read it. Go see what I'm talking about. But proceed with caution. This is not for the faint of heart. I'm serious. There's some depraved stuff in here. It's crazy. It's crazy. But you know, do with that what you will. And finally, the last book that I read in December. So if my previous book was one that I would say I do not recommend to most people, I would say this is a book that I think everybody should read because I just found it so fantastic. I found it powerful. That is Margot's Got Money Troubles by Ruthie Thorpe. I listened to this on audio and I loved the audiobook. I think it was done by Elle Fanning, who is actually going to be playing the main character in this TV adaptation. So that was really cool. I actually did mention this one in my top 5 best books of 2024. It was tied in the same place with The Rachel Incident because I feel like both of these books tackle the same topics. But this one follows a young woman who at the age of 19 finds out that she's pregnant, and she goes through with the pregnancy, but due to the circumstances of her pregnancy and the fact that she is so young, she is cast out by her family and she kind of has to make it on her own. And so this book is really about young motherhood, young single motherhood, and you know what she has to do to make ends meet. And then I don't think this is a spoiler. I think this is tied into the premise of the book, but she does get an OnlyFans page to make money, and then a large percentage of the book is talking about the, I wouldn't say morality of doing that, but just the outward perception that, you know, that puts on her. And it's really, really interesting, like the dynamics between her and the father of her child. And then there's like another person from her life that comes back into her life, and he's dealing with some serious issues, and she kind of has to take on that problem as well. And just the interpersonal dynamics are really fascinating here. It's also touching on some big subjects, some big societal issues, and I just love this. I loved everything about this book. I thought it was fascinating and so entertaining, and it really made me think. It challenged many beliefs that I think are just very common to have, and it was just really, really well done. So I would highly recommend this book. I had a great time. And with that, those are all of the books that I read in the month of December 2024. Honestly, probably one of my better reading months in the year of 2024. And I am excited because I did complete my TBR teacup prompt for December, which was to read the newest book on your TBR, which I counted for Rejection. So I did complete that, yay! Which means that even though I don't have a January TBR for this video, I am going to pull a book from the TBR teacup. Okay, first pull of 2025. I'm going to continue on with this because I still have quite a few prompts left. First pull of 2025, let's see here. The book you are most excited to read. Oh wow, that's exciting. That, I mean, obviously, that is a treat for me. So let's think about what's on my physical TBR that I am most excited to read. I think one that is coming to mind for me right now is Where I End by Sophie White. This is a psychological / maybe horror novel. I don't know. I think it's probably more like a psychological thriller set in Ireland, in this remote cabin in Ireland, about a woman and her baby who are looking for shelter, and they find this remote cabin that this woman is in, and I think some things go down, you know? So I am excited to read this. I have been excited to read this for a couple months, and it kind of works out because I am just about to start reading for Winter Ween, hosted by Gabby Reads. I will link all of the Winter Ween information. This is a week-long readathon all about horror thrillers and winter and all that. So I was hoping to read this as a part of that. So I think that works out. This is a book that I am definitely very excited to get to. All right, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know down in the comments below, have you read any of these books? Now, are you going to pick one up? Or what was your best book of December 2024? Let me know. I'd love to have a little chat in the comments. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your day, week, month, and year, and I will see you back here next time. Thanks so much. Bye.